I'm very excited. I want to show you a new poll. It was conducted by Leger, which is Canada's largest pollster. It's a special poll that we asked them to do. We asked them to measure Rebel News' reputation in Canada. We told them what we were interested in learning, and they wrote the questions to make sure the poll was neutral and scientifically accurate, not a fake push poll that gets a predetermined result. I want to read to you Leger's terms for doing polls like this one, and then I'm going to dive right into it. Quality control. Stringent quality assurance measures allow Leger to achieve the high-quality standards set by the company. As a result, its methods of data collection and storage outperform the norms set by the World Association for Public Opinion Research. These measures are applied at every stage of the project, from data collection to processing through to analysis. We aim to answer our clients' needs with honesty, total confidentiality, and integrity. Thanks for letting me read that to you. I want you to know that we had no control over the process or even the exact wording of the questions. We left that to the pros, and here are the results. And I am so excited and proud of them. And I want to tell you about them because I think it's proof of our concept of citizen journalism, and it's proof of our strategy of never taking government money or money from a big corporation, never taking money from anyone, really, who could control what we say, because our total editorial independence. Because of that, we've won the trust of millions of Canadians. Let me show you the results that I think are so encouraging. The first question was pretty basic. Have you heard of Rebel News? That's a good one. By the way, and you should remember this, only about half of Canadians care about the news at all. A recent poll by Meru shows that only 16% of Canadians check the news all the time. I would be one of those people. Another 35% check the news, I'd say, frequently. So that's a total of 51%. But the other half of Canadians follow the news only rarely or even like never. So the Leger poll found that 25% of Canadians have heard of Rebel News. We're 8 years old. We have a marketing budget of pretty much zero. It's all word of mouth. It's all friends sharing with friends. And yet 25% of Canadians have heard of Rebel News, which is about half of the news-watching population. I think that's amazing, but that's just the average. Of course, it's higher and lower in different parts of the country. We only hired our Quebec team a couple of years ago, led by the amazing Alexa Lavoie, and yet already 13% of Quebecers have heard of Rebel News, and that's the lowest province for us. I think that's pretty great, given how new we are there and that we don't do a lot of French content. I think it was our pandemic and lockdown coverage that really helped us break through there. So that's the lowest, but it goes up from there, 15% in the Atlantic. I wish we could cover the Atlantic more. 25% of people in BC know us. 27% in Ontario, very strong. 29% in the prairies, and an unbelievable 49% in Alberta. We are bigger in Alberta than the so-called mainstream media, and it shows. Our coverage had a major role in determining, in demonstrating the problems with Jason Kenney's lockdowns, which led to his ouster as premier. And we championed the liberty agenda of Danielle Smith, the new premier. I think we're big in Alberta. I know we are. The poll says we are. Now, we skew male. So 32% of men in Canada have heard of us, more than women have. And would you look at that? Our viewers, they're young. Now, often conservative organizations have older members or viewers, but look at us. Rebel News is stronger with younger people. Now, I love people of all ages, but we're really connecting with young people, which I think is great, because it's hard to get young people to care about the news. They care about Rebel News. By the way, I've uploaded the entire poll on a special website, rebelpoll.com. So go there and check it out for yourself. I would love it if you read through it. But look, just because someone has heard of Rebel News doesn't mean they like Rebel News. I like to say the other guys are bland. They're vanilla. Like who would pick up the Toronto Star? They're bland. We're Tabasco sauce. We're not for everyone. Tabasco sauce is not for everyone, but for those who like it, they like it a lot. And the opposite is true also. If you're a lockdown extremist, if you're a mask-wearing scold, if you have pronouns, if you love the carbon tax and Trudeau, think Trudeau's dreamy, you're going to hate Rebel News, which is the right thing. So whereas some media try to appeal to everyone by standing for really nothing, we do the opposite. We take a clear point of view. But it works because we really are one of the few contrarian voices in the country, which is needed, especially in the past 3 years. So look at the results. The question was, do you have a favorable or unfavorable impression of Rebel News? It's very neutral wording, isn't it? And here's the answer. Canadians who have heard of Rebel News are split as to their opinion on the organization. 42% express a favorable impression, and the same number believe the opposite. Isn't that interesting? I think that's a fair deal. I'll take 42% support. I would be surprised if 42% of Canadians support the CBC or the Globe and Mail, I'll tell you that. And again, it varies by demographic. Men support us more than women do. Young people support us more than older people do. The absolute strongest support for us in the prairies, 52%. So if you're a young man in Saskatchewan or Manitoba, I haven't seen the crosstabs, but you probably, it's 65% support for Rebel News if you're a young male person in the prairies. You're in Rebel country. Hey, just a quick note on who really, really hates us, though. Can you see that pink bar near the bottom right of the chart? Those are people who say they have a very unfavorable opinion of us, people who hate us. So white people are 33% likely to say they hate us. But that number falls to just 21% for visible minorities, which is how Leger breaks it down. Isn't that interesting? I sort of knew that was true instinctively. Everywhere I go, new immigrants, visible minorities come up to me very supportive, especially Sikh Canadians, especially people from the Caribbean. I'm just telling you my life experience, but that's always been anecdotal. Now I have statistical proof. Why is that? I think it's because woke leftists in Canada are often rich white liberals who love being offended about things, whether it's our conservative views or our irreverent style. Visible minorities, new immigrants, I'm just guessing here, I think they like our take on the issues. For example, our opposition to transgender extremism or reducing taxes. And I think they're not quite as dainty and easily offended and politically correct as white liberals. I don't know, but I love it. If you are a young, visible minority male from the prairies, it's pretty much guaranteed that you are a rebel. Am I right? That's what this Leger poll says. Feel free to really study the results at rebelpoll.com. I put the whole thing there. I thought it was a really interesting poll. Okay, next question. Let me hurry up. When is the last time you saw a Rebel News video, e.g. on YouTube, or read a Rebel News article or social media post? I think that's a good question. Let me read the summary. Again, you can go through the details yourself at rebelpoll.com if you want to. Of those aware of Rebel News, 6 in 10 have seen a Rebel News video or read a Rebel News article or social media post. 1 in 4 have seen or heard something within the past week. Although Quebecers are less likely to have heard of Rebel News, just 13%, 77% of those who are aware have ever seen or read something from Rebel News versus 59% in the rest of Canada. Isn't that interesting? So Quebecers, not a lot of them know about us, but those who do, they come to us frequently. Canadians who identify as BIPOC, that means Black, Indigenous, or people of color, are significantly more likely to have ever seen a Rebel News article, video, or post. 77% versus 58% of those who identify as white. Isn't that amazing to you? I don't know exactly how or why. I want people of every race and every age and both sexes to love Rebel News. It really defies liberal stereotypes, doesn't it? That the people who visit our website the most frequently are visible minorities. I think that's pretty cool. And really, for everyone, 24% of people go to Rebel News in video form or some other story once a week. And 11% of people are coming to our site every day. No wonder Justin Trudeau hates us so much. Seriously, did you know we were so big? I always had sort of a secret hope or sort of a hunch, but I didn't know, I couldn't prove it until Leger did a statistically valid national survey. Okay, let me speed up a bit here, but the next 3 questions, which were asked together, are just amazing. And really, I've saved the best for last. So here's the question. Here's how it was read to people. Thinking about Rebel News, do you agree or disagree with the statements provided below? And the first one is, Rebel News covers the stories the mainstream media outlets don't want to cover. Well, even our critics would have to agree with that we do that, right? So 57% of people say, yes, that is what Rebel News does. And don't you think that's valuable in a democracy? I mean, seriously, in an age where all the mainstream media just repeat the same talking points, seriously, they all run the same Canadian Press wire stories, same as the other guys. There's so few actual journalists out there. Isn't it nice to have some news outlet writing news that is otherwise ignored? Okay, how about this? This is the next one that was tested. Agree or disagree? Media organizations like Rebel News do a better job than the mainstream media at holding government and politicians to account. And would you look at that? 46% of people say, yes, we do a better job. In fact, 27% of people are adamant about it. That is so encouraging and actually not surprising. Over the past 5 years, Trudeau has colonized the regime media with his bailout money and his subsidies, and it really shows. It is not a good look for the mainstream media. Most journalists are just Trudeau's mouthpieces now on every issue. They just sort of echo the Liberal Party, and people notice that, and they don't like it. 46% of people believe that we hold politicians to account better than the regime media does, which is why we're always kicked out of press conferences by Trudeau and roughed up by his police, while the media party journalists are allowed in for their softball questions. I mean, if I ever had Justin Trudeau trapped in a small airplane with me, like this reporter, and if I could ask him any question and he was stuck with me, and the only way he could escape me was to parachute out, I guarantee you I wouldn't waste any questions asking about his shampoo.
So I guess the first thing I should ask you is, are you feeling lucky? I mean, the entire country wants to know. What shampoo do you use?
What a disappointing answer this is going to be. Whatever happens to be hanging around at the time.
Yeah, that was Global News. That was Tom Clark. But he knew what he was doing. He's smarter than me. He was later appointed by Trudeau to an amazing patronage gig. He's the consul general in New York City. What a great gig. But you don't think people notice that? Hey, what's your favorite shampoo? Oh, hey, thanks for appointing me to the government. The day I ask a politician what shampoo they use is the day you should fire me. But this next question is my favorite. We really have saved the best for last. Ready? Here's how the question was put to people. Agree or disagree? I trust the reporting of Rebel News more than the mainstream media. Wow. Okay, well, let's get to it. 41% say yes, including 22% who strongly agree. Now, many don't, in fact, agree. 36% strongly disagree. Fair enough. And it would really be weird if a Liberal supporter or NDP supporter or Greenpeace supporter trusted Rebel News more than they trust, say, Trudeau's CBC state broadcaster. That would be weird. It's just like the poll question about whether or not people like us. Some people love us, some people hate us, not a lot of in between. It's the same for this question about trust, but still, think about this. 41% of Canadians are so repulsed by how journalists conduct themselves, especially taking all that Trudeau cash, that they would trust our little band of citizen journalists in our little rickety company started in my living room 8 years ago. No government money, no marketing budget. 41% of Canadians trust us more than they trust the oligopoly, the CBC, CTV, Global, the Toronto Star, even Postmedia. In just 8 years, we've earned the trust of 41% of people so deeply that they no longer believe the old guard. I mean, they grew up watching CBC, CTV, Global News, reading the old papers. They no longer trust them. That is incredible. And we're just getting started. But of course, it's not just our good work. It's the atrocious misconduct of the media party, who have gladly, eagerly sold out to Trudeau, and people see that. I found this poll very encouraging. And if you did too, go to rebelpoll.com. Read it carefully for yourself. There's so many little nuggets in there. I read some of them to you, but not all. And if you feel as excited and encouraged and vindicated by it as I do, maybe consider chipping in a little bit right there on that page, rebelpoll.com. This poll isn't just a validation of our editorial quality. It's a validation of our fundraising approach, crowdfunding. Never take a dime from the people we cover. Never take money from governments. Always rely on our viewers. That is why people trust us, because they know we're not bought off by Trudeau or, for that matter, any conservative politician. If you're as happy as I am with the results, go to rebelpoll.com. help us keep up the good work. Thanks.